Good morning, everyone, and thank you for allowing me the opportunity to spend a few minutes with you today to talk about the city of Shakopee, specifically some of the things we've accomplished in the past year, but even more importantly, where we're headed in 2019. My name is Bill Reynolds. I'm the city administrator of Shakopee, and it's my pleasure to be able to lead this fine organization into 2019. But the real leadership actually isn't me. I'd like to introduce you to our new council. We had an election this year, and you can see on the photo on the screen, Mayor Bill Mars was reelected to his second consecutive term. Mayor Mars actually is the new old mayor. Mayor Mars was also mayor about a decade ago, and so he provides a strong bit of leadership for our organization as a whole. We also have Councilman Matt Lehman, who is the second senior most council member of our organization. And he serves along with Jay Whiting, who has also served for his second term at this point. We have two new faces on the council, Jody Brennan, who was recently elected, and Angelica Contreras, who was also recently elected as well. And I actually work for them as a body. I do not work for any one council person or the mayor, but actually work for the body as a whole. Each year, we have a meeting where we get together in a workshop setting, and we basically talk a little bit about what we've done in the past, but more importantly, we look to what we're trying to achieve in the future. And so the City Council puts together a work plan of financial goals, among other things. I'm going to go over the financial piece of that because this is a very important piece of what we do. And as we take your taxes and your tax dollars, which I'm going to talk a little bit about in a few minutes, it's important to understand what we do with that money and what the overall of the organization are. The 2018 City Council financial goals were low taxes, continued financial stability, a stable tax rate, increased tax capacity, and increased bond rating to AAA. Now, the first three of those are the same as they were in 2017, but the council added the last two after some discussion during our workshop. So how did we do? Well, essentially, as we look forward, I also had some long-range goals as well. For me, it's always very, very important that we provide excellent customer service. Again, we're taking your tax dollars. It's not a voluntary transaction. And we have a responsibility, a very strong responsibility to make sure that we're doing everything we can to give you the best customer service possible. But even more importantly, I wanted to establish true transparency throughout the organization. If you read a document and don't understand what we're doing because the language is not something that you're familiar with, or frankly, if you just simply don't understand the terminology we're using, then that's not being truly transparent. So especially with our budget documents, we've worked very hard in the last 3 years to transform that document into something that you can understand. Well, how did we do in 2018? Well, frankly, most of these goals that the council set out, except for the last one, which I'll go into in a few minutes, were realized. Low taxes. I'm extremely proud of the fact in our 2019 budget that we provided a tax cut, which solidified our status as one of the lowest tax cities in the metro area. Now, what that means is, absent a change in valuation, residents received a 7.2% tax decrease. Understand, we can't control the valuation of your property. But even with that valuation, 7,147 residential properties received a tax cut this year. We're extremely proud of that. Well, what does that mean compared to the cities that we compare ourselves to, those cities that are most like us in Minnesota? You can tell from our graph here, we have a list of cities that are our comparable cities. Savage, Maplewood, Roseville, St. Louis Park, Burnsville, Coon Rapids, Golden Valley, Lakeville, Blaine, and Inner Grove Heights. All of these cities raised taxes this year. Shakopee did not. Another financial goal that was realized, continued financial stability. We continue to currently hold a bond rating of AAA1, which is the second highest bond rating that you can have, and less than 5% of governmental organizations actually currently have this rating. We also received the highest possible rating in our annual audit. It was a clean audit with no comments, and that is rarely achieved by less than 10% of organizations. We also realized the stable tax rate. We significantly actually lowered our tax rate from 37.971% to 35.231%, which is the fourth consecutive year of a decrease. We increased our tax capacity. We had a strong year of growth with a 7.33% increase to the 2019 tax base. And as I mentioned earlier, we're continuing to work on our increased bond rating. We have the bond rating companies that will be looking at us before we bring forward our bonds under our TIF plan for the Canterbury project, and they even agreed to do an on-site visit this summer as part of that project. Well, what does this mean for the average resident in Shakopee? Well, essentially in 2018, you paid about $90 a month for our services. And you can see the breakdown of our comparable cities is where we fall with that in this chart here. Well, how did we use that $90.29 a month in the 2018 budget? Well, that money goes specifically to the general fund, which funds our police force, our fire protection, our recreation, planning and development, public works, and finance and administration. That led to an overall 2019 budget levy, or will lead to an overall 2019 budget levy of $19.6 million, and an annual general operating fund budget of $27.2 million. It's important to understand that our budget overall budget is actually much larger than just what you pay in taxes, and our budget for this next year is over $62 million. Again, all of this solidifying us as among the lowest city property taxes in the 7 metro county area. Well, if you take that $90 or so and you plug it into what your monthly expenses are, you see an interesting dynamic. Now, what we've done is a monthly cost comparison here, which basically outlines what an average family will spend on different things. Average $150 a month for cable TV and internet, $120 for a family mobile phone plan for 3 family members. 120 is also what the average amount of money is spent on home insurance. $90 for electricity, $75 for natural gas, and carving out the water, sewer, and stormwater utilities out, city services that are in our general fund itself actually are $70.67. And that's essentially what you're paying on a monthly basis for all of the things that the city of Shakopee provides for you. It's been an interesting year across the board. We just finished our analysis in regards to what our public safety results were, and I'm very happy to report that we are tied for 6th lowest crime rate in our history, and this follows last year's 3rd lowest crime rate in our history. And to put that in perspective, it's hard to understand, but it's actually factually correct. Our crime rate is almost half of what it was in the late 2000s. That's pretty impressive across the board, from 95 to about 2005. We're about half of that at this point. In 2018, we added 2 street crimes officers. The whole point of that is that we knew that there was an uptick in street crimes and vandalism, and so we added officers into that to try to help with that effort. And we also, in 2018, added a full-time code enforcement specialist. That code enforcement specialist actually came out of an idea from the public, as the public said in our survey a couple of years ago, that they really wanted to see a more proactive type of community ordinance review as opposed to a reactive. In other words, where the individual is actually going out there to try to find code violations and remind people that they need to be taken care of, as opposed to waiting for the public to complain. We're very proud of some of the awards that our police department is, bar none, one of the finest law enforcement organizations in this nation. I sincerely believe that. And yet more reasons, or you can see from our public safety awards that we received this year, is more evidence of that. We received the 2018 IACP Excellent, that's the International Association of Chiefs of Police, Excellence in Victim Services Award. It's interesting to note that we are the only department to win both the EVS Award and the International Association of Chiefs of Police Excellence in Community Policing Award in the state of Minnesota. No one else has done that, and our organization has both those awards. And we're very proud of Barb Hedstrom, our Victim and Community Services Coordinator, who also received a major award. She received the 2018 Minnesota Alliance on Crime Spotlight Award for dedication to victim services. Now, this time last year, I came before you and I talked about some real concerns that we were aware of from the community in regards to our operations of our community center and our ice arena. I'm proud to report that at this point, we now have new leadership in that organization who is specifically tasked for two goals. One, revenue diversification, and two, customer service. Both are extremely important to that organization. And in addition to what the leadership position change, we also, the council, wanted to take a hard look at our Parks and Recreation Master Plan, and we're in the process of doing that right now. We're reviewing our assets, we're reviewing our public and private partnerships, and hopefully when that plan is completed in June, we will have a new plan that we'll be able to work from to allow that organization to continue to move forward. As always, if you have any questions or concerns or issues with the Recreation Department, please reach out and keep us apprised of those. That's very important for us to know how we're doing. We also included a monthly financial analysis in front of the council and obviously in front of the citizens at large. So you can see how we're doing when it comes to our spending of your tax dollars with that particular organization. We take a hard look at our revenues, we take an even harder look at our expenses, and that happens on a monthly basis. Growth continues to be our key to success. The larger the pie grows, absent everything else, the lower your taxes will be. There are two different types of growth that we continually look at. One is residential and the other is commercial. They are very different. Residential obviously is specifically talking about houses. Our focus for the most part is on the west end where we have the opportunity to grow. We do have some infill projects that we're currently working on, but ultimately most of our focus will be on the west end, and you'll see that we've done a lot of effort out there in regards to building houses. We also have a very large commercial draw, but it's important to understand that with commercial, the state of Minnesota actually takes a portion of the taxes we receive from commercial developments and then through a program called Fiscal Disparities, hands those out to other organizations, other communities that are not growing. So we do not realize all the same tax dollars that we realize from residential as in with commercial. And we continue our efforts in Jackson Township, the West End area, with our annexation program. So just really quickly to run through some of the growth that we've had in our residential. The Stagecoach area has 42 lots that have just been put into play. Countryside Second Edition, 31 lots. Prairie Meadows Second Edition, 24 lots. Windermere Second Edition, that's on the west end, 29 lots. And the South First Edition has 31 additional lots. Benedictine Health Systems at Windermere is in place. That'll ultimately be 251 units of senior independent living and assisted living. Common Bond at Windermere will also have 60 units of supportive housing. And then our Triple Crown Apartments at Canterbury, our luxury apartment program that we have in place, will ultimately have 600 units. The Sixton just opened up. It's the apartments that are next to Hy-Vee, which is 133 market rate apartments. And Trio, the luxury rental apartments at Southbridge, just recently opened up as well. In talking about commercial growth, we've had a lot of commercial activity, as I mentioned. RAR continues their expansion. We have Northland Concrete Corporation with their headquarters, Universal Stone Production with their headquarters. We also have Fairfield Inn, Willie McCoy's, Wendy's just opened up in the Southbridge area, and a lot of others. Downtown has been a significant revitalization effort by the city with the city to own properties. First, the old City Hall property. That will be moving forward with a groundbreaking relatively soon on 83 units of market rate apartments with underground parking. and our River Bluff apartments, which will have 125 market rate units, and a restaurant that overlooks the river up on the bluff. The real jewel in all this development, obviously, is going to be Canterbury Commons. It is a $400 million private investment that will have housing, apartments, senior homes, townhomes, a corporate headquarters that we're pretty excited about that hopefully we'll be able to announce in the next few weeks, retail, hotels, and restaurants. It truly will be taking what was once a parking lot and clearly making it a destination station. This is what that will look like. As you can tell, it's taking that parking lot and infilling with quite a bit of activity. And although you really can't get a good idea of what it looks like there, this is what we could have someday as we're walking down in the current Canterbury parking lot. The other big thing that we did this year was our 2040 comprehensive plan, Envision Shakopee. We had more than 3,000 residents that participated in this effort. It was essentially a plan that you started. We started 6 to 8 months in meetings with you, residents of this community, to try to figure out what it is you wanted from us in the future. And you came up with a list of big ideas. Very simply, they were create a fresh impression, rediscover the river, enhance economic clusters, diversify our housing options, revitalize First Avenue, knit the community together, connect people to nature, foster civic life and civic places, position the city for the new economy, spark the startup culture, support regional transportation, and have fun, celebrate big fun. This is a concept that we currently have of what our city could look like, our downtown on the riverfront. As you can tell, it really takes an area that is nothing more than trees at this point and brush and transforms it into a real space. But the council has actually been doing other things as well in regards to already working on these big ideas. We've approved a feasibility study for a new university-based innovation center in downtown. And in partnership with Scott County, we've been working hard to move that forward. And the council approved an RFP, a request for proposals for that particular space, and that'll be coming out relatively soon. The city is looking at creating new gateway features to what we've had put in place in the downtown, including our Chief Shakopee statue. And as I mentioned before, our Parks and Trail Master Plan is under review, or underway currently. The Chief Shakopee statue in downtown really transformed the entrance to 101 into the downtown area. As I travel throughout the area, the metro area, and talk with people, that's the one thing that they keep reminding me of about how great that statue is and how it looks. A special word of thanks to the SMSC, the Minnewacan and Sioux community for that partnership that allowed that to move forward. And now we're currently working on the Samuel Pond statue, which will be on the other side on First Avenue. The Samuel Pond statue is currently under development. We have the contract for that, and hopefully we will have the fundraising efforts for that wrapped up by the end of this summer. And as we look at that master plan for the park system, we have some efforts that we're doing with Ridge Creek Park, and you can see from this is kind of an idea of not all parks have to be swing sets, not all parks have to be have to have things for kids play. This particular park is really getting us back to nature to take a look at our really vital environmental assets that we have in the community, and doing everything we can to then make those accessible to our public. Well, in wrapping up, there's a question that I get all the time, and that is essentially, why can't government be more like business? That's a valid question. The answer simply is that we're not a business. We don't seek profit, but what we really try to do is to deliver something called public value. I personally believe that taking taxes is something that is necessary, but we have a high moral responsibility to use those taxes effectively. If we don't, then we're violating that moral ethos of that non-traditional, that non-voluntary transaction that is taking place. So we have programs in place. Like I said, we don't deliver profit, but we have plans in place that we know will lose money at the end of the day, but we're delivering something called public value. However, we can certainly learn from business. Efficiency, business process and process improvement, and more importantly, customer service are all things that businesses rely upon because they want their customers to be happy, so those customers will come back. They want to make sure that they're being efficient, so they're using their funds to the best possible way. The next question I get quite a bit is, how does business navigate the government bureaucracy? How does anybody navigate it? The reality is that you, as residents of this community, should demand excellent customer service from your government. You should hold us accountable. If we're not doing something that you think we should be, then tell us. And we have a real good opportunity to do that right now. Many of you have received a survey from the city that basically is looking for your opinion on a myriad of issues. The last survey that we did, we actually took action on, for example, to put together the code officer in the police department. So 1,600 residents are getting that survey. You will get a paper survey, but if you still want to participate in this particular survey, there's also a website you can go to, shakopee.mn.gov community survey, and that in February you can fill out that survey and tell us what you think. Well, I thank you again for the opportunity to talk a little bit about what we've done in the past year and where we're headed in 2019. As always, I am available if you have any questions, concerns, or comments. My contact information is right on the screen right now. Thank you very much for your time and attention today, and have a great 2019.